Hey there. Hopefully you're able to see my screen. Hi, my name is Catalina, and today I'm gonna try and give you some things from my experience in creating products and also creating teams that create products. So that's gonna be my talk around. I usually have this way of putting the title and doing it in a reverse way. So I'm going to start backwards from creating products and then taking you to the what and then how and some whys. But first of all, before I jumpstart to telling you what I have prepared for you today, I have some things to say about me. This is me while I was working at Electronic Arts. And I use this image quite a lot because it kind of emphasizes, it shows very well how well I knew football and my connection to football. And this is one of the things that I mostly say about my experience at EA. It was an unexpected experience that I jump started on, even though I didn't know much about the industry, about the gaming or about football. But because I know where to look, I realized I'm quite a good fit for the company. Before joining EA, I was for 7 years at ING, where I did quite a lot of different things. I was a management trainee for 1 year, and then after 1 year of moving through all the departments and functions of the bank, that gave me the opportunity to really understand how the banking industry works. I moved for 1 year to marketing, then to digital marketing back in 2012 when digital was starting quite with high hopes in Romania back then in 2012. Then after communicating for 2 years the product and doing a lot of small apps, a lot of digital innovative communication campaigns, treasure hunt applications and stuff like that, I wanted to be at the core of really doing the product and influencing product. So I moved to product for a brief period of time, because after 9 months, the UX designer job landed in my life. Somehow my former manager at Digital told me that they are looking for someone with exactly my expertise, because he knew how I was seeing things from back when we were working together at Digital and preparing digital communication, let's say not plans, but experiences. And after that, for 2 years, the last thing that I did for the last 2 years at ING, I did the experience for the new home bank, back when we were trying to make a better internet banking system for people who need to understand better on what they are spending money, where are they now, and better prepare for the future. After 2 years of preparing this product, I left ING to move briefly at Vodafone, but because the guys from Electronic Arts came at me after three months at Vodafone, I decided that it is probably one of the highest, let's say, opportunities, but also challenges, because remember again the image, I really didn't know much about football except the fact that, you know, a football game lasts for 90 minutes and then after 45 minutes you kind of switch sides, joking. I'm also a Google Experience UX expert, which means basically Google gave me the certificate of being a good person to learn UX from. I was the only person from Romania to receive this title, and also the only person from Romania to have been invited at the Design Sprint Master Academy that they have, where they have in California, where you learn from the Google company that started this methodology. You learn what Design Sprint means what the process is, and how this process helps you better create and faster create products. In 2017, while I was still an employee, a full-time employee, I also co-founded with these three other guys, Design Thinking Society. And after quitting electronic arts in January 2019, I dedicated my whole time and my my life basically to building this company, which is a consultancy company that helps companies and startups and whoever wants to know more about design and to also reinvent their product and offer better, basically companies to better design and respond to their clients' needs. So this was me in a nutshell. The talk, again, I'm going to go back to the talk. It's the why and hows and what's around how you create, around creating products, and then how you create teams for this. I'm going to take, I already told you that I'm going to take it reversed, because I'm going to start talking about what it takes to create products and how the products come to life. And then I'm gonna, because it's related to that, I'm gonna talk about teams and people, because teams are made of people. And then it's gonna be a mix of things, of somewhat. And then I'm gonna close with summarizing some of the hows and why you really need to do this. So how do products come to life? Usually is, and it's good that it is, and hopefully it is in most of the cases, methodology, basically a sum of steps, of stages in a process, where you do some things with some tools. This is somehow the way I show what is or what I think is the design process of bringing products to life, from an idea to actually having something that people can interact with. There are on the internet a lot of variation on this methodology. I like to put it this way, without showing the importance of all the steps, because I go into details for each step. But basically it starts from a strategy, and then you do discovery analysis. Well, in the discovery you try to understand more, then you analyze what you understand, and then you try to come up with solutions for that in the design phase, and then ideally you test this before going to development. In reality this doesn't happen very linear. Sometimes a lot of companies jump from design to actual development besides doing testing, but that takes some of these companies to realizing after some time of development that in the end you have a product that doesn't really work, and then you realize the importance of testing after hopefully not too much time of development. But before going into the details of other things, in reality, this is how it really happens. You have someone who, well, this is how I like to explain it. You have someone who looks at the world differently, who looks at the world with different lenses, and who takes time to look, because in these times when life is really fast-paced, when you have a lot of things on your plate, when there's a very high speed of things happening and things moving, you really need to take time to disconnect sometimes, because you need to look. If you don't look, you're not going to be this person that sees the world and sees what is not working. Because if you don't take time to have this bigger picture of the world and be really curious and understand that there are things that might not work, you might not be able to start to have an inception, a starting point for ideas and for doing new stuff, because you do new stuff because there's something that either doesn't work or there's something missing. So this person, if we look at what was the process that I mentioned before, really needs to understand better. This person looks at the world and sees things that don't work or that are missing, but he really needs to understand why things don't work and why maybe there's something missing out there in the world. but this person ideally is not closing himself or herself in a room and try to come up with, you know, a strategy and then tries to understand a bunch of different people, because if there's something not working, there's something not working not only for a person, because if it's not working for only for a person, then you won't develop a product only for one person. So hopefully you're gonna try and look at different people and different contexts and try to understand why things don't work for this person, and then come up with solutions and then design. When you do these phases, and also in testing and development, you don't do this alone, but let's focus first on these 4 stages. When you do this, and you really need to understand so many different people and so many different contexts, this person needs other people. And of course you're going to say, yes, but I'm prepared for this job. I learned, I went to university, I put myself into different contexts, so I'm able to understand a lot of things, and I'm able to understand a lot of people, and maybe I'm able to really understand a lot of different contexts. But this is true. However, this is very tiring. This can be very tiring, and because you will see further on, this person has so many different things on her plate, his plate. It's better that he looks for people who maybe have more empathy, or people who can see things differently and have other lenses than you have, and then maybe someone else in everybody else in the team. And maybe you really need someone who comes up with a lot of crazy out of this world ideas, because from those ideas there might spring some really good opportunities for a good solution. Maybe sometimes we don't really hear the voice of the customer, and maybe sometimes, because it's human enough, we don't hear other people's ideas, because usually we're narcissistic and we're egoistic enough to only care about what we say. So it's good that you have at the table someone who somehow trained themselves to listen to others' ideas. And maybe you also need someone who is really diligent enough to take notes and to do you know, the work that maybe the others don't do. And these are just some examples. When I talk about technology and designing things for technology, I see a lot of teams built around tech people, and not necessarily bringing, I don't know, psychologists at table, sociologists, anthropologists, or art people. It's really important. I see a lot of really successful companies that try to bring in their teams people with a very diverse and maybe uncommon background, just because when we're talking about technology, is not only the technology that matters, because you put this technology to work for people. So ideally, you bring at this table in your team people who are also able to understand people, and who are also able to bridge, you know, the technology world, the guys who are really into technology and know a lot about machine learning, artificial intelligence, about, you know, all the stuff and all the platforms that best combine themselves to put this product into pieces. But then how this product works and how is used by people, because after you launch it, the product might not be used as you envision it. So all this stuff need people who understand people. So that's why you create things. And then this brings me to one of the important things that I want to emphasize is creating products doesn't happen alone. And I already said that you don't close yourself in a room, and then you, after two months, you expect, or 1 year, you expect to come up with this really revolutionary, innovative product. Creating products happens in teams, and it happens in project teams, but then it happens also in extended teams. And I'm gonna take this into pieces to explain you what I'm talking about. So you have the project team, which means that you're talking about a project. In a company, you have, or even in a startup, maybe you have smaller bits of functionalities that are given to a team, and then you have a project team. And then in this project team, you have the product person, a person who is dedicated to making this product happen, and then you have other people who will do this product come to life. You will have maybe an IT person, you will have a finance, you will have a marketing guy, you will have, I don't know, even a project manager, because the product guy might not be able to foresee all the backlog things and organize everything. Although there's a lot of from this on the product person plate. And then I was mentioning the extended team. What I encourage companies to do, and startups, and even everyone who wants to do a successful product, is bring in, alongside the project team, alongside the already diverse mix of people that are making are part of the project team, to bring in people maybe from other companies who maybe have innovated something in a different way, and you're maybe trying to understand how they did that in such a successful manner. I'm just gonna give an example. Let's say you're someone from traveling, and you really want to make this experience for people to be able to travel and interact less with people nowadays. Maybe you won't go to the Airbnb team to ask them how they did that, but maybe you will go to a very successful hotel that has a really, really good experience that people appreciate so much. And maybe you will try to find someone from that hotel to bring in your extended team for only a short period of time, to combine with your project team, so that they can, give them outside information and bring in the virus that this project team needs to be able to maybe make a leap at certain moments, to try and get out of their box, because sometimes you might be too stuck in your box. That's exactly why in all the projects that I do with other companies and with startups, I try to bring in people from outside the company. Be it sometimes I also bring in kids from high school, because they have different views and they have more courage. So sometimes just having someone that has a disrupting voice, or a very different voice than the project team at the table, might help the team build on top of all these ideas and come up with new solutions. So far, we have the project team, we have the extended team, but I didn't mention the product team. I mentioned only the product person. In a company, in a larger company, you have this team that has to put the biggest efforts into making the product happen. They split into all the projects, all the project teams, to make the product come together, or different products come together in the best way. And then you have this person that I'm gonna come later on to detail a bit what this simple person does. But right now, let's stick a bit more around the product people. These are the guys that I like to call either enablers or architects or designers. They have a lot of different synonyms for product, because they do a lot of stuff, and it's really hard to grasp to put it into a really simple word that best describes what they are doing. However, they are the people who bring things to life, but in order to do so, I mean, they are the people who enable things to come to life. They pave the way to do this. They, for different products or different part of functionalities or different experiences, they are the people who best understand what is the process, and maybe what are the tools that you need in order to design the next chair. Maybe you need a special type of wood, and maybe you need a special type of machines to best process this wood. So they kind of know what it takes for each kind of process or each kind of product to come to life. And then they also do the work. They don't just envision what is the path and then they put others to work. They also do the work, but they invite others to join and to help them, because they are aware that they don't know everything. So they create they create these extended teams, and somehow because they are these enablers, I like to say that these product people are the people that come at the table aware of the fact that this is the thing that they want to do. So they join the table because they want to be part of that. And because they do so, ideally, because they join the table, not because someone put them or asked them to do that, their energy and their way of seeing the world makes others join. And it's really important that you create this kind of product teams with people who opt in to join the table, because only these driven people will be able to make others join and to make others dedicate the same amount of energy or even more amount of energy to make successful products come to life. And they are open. And it's really important that you remember this, because these are people who are open enough to understand that they don't hold the holy grail of any solution or of any problem. They might see a problem, they might come up with some solutions, but they don't fall for their ideas. They invite other people at the table because they understand products don't happen alone, and maybe other people can contribute better to their ideas, and they experiment a lot. They allow themselves to fail and to learn from these failures, because they understand that failing is really important in any process and learning process. And when you want to land on a really successful product, this doesn't happen without failure. I would say that actually it happens with a lot of failure and with a lot of learning from that. So the product people, I think, yeah, the product people are, I would, and it's, I don't want to brag them, but I think they need to be a bit jack of all trades. They are driven, motivated, and relentlessness, because you really need a lot of energy to put everything at work, or at least to know who to invite and to make the dynamics happen, and to bring in the tools exactly when the tools are needed and stuff like that. But because they are relentless and because they have to do all this work, we really need to take into consideration that these guys are also just people, and they have their own anxieties and struggles. So it's really important that there's someone else who takes care of them. And I'm gonna just take you back to, if you remember what I told you about the project team and the extended team. I also mentioned it's not only one project team, it's several teams, and then you have the product people, and then you have this simple person that I wanted to start talking about. This simple person, and it's intentionally put as a simple person, because to the core of this person really needs to be simple in the complexity of how this person should be. So right now I'm gonna take you to the second important thing, is if you want to design teams that really create good products, you really need to get someone at the table who really knows how to orchestrate, like really needs to know how to orchestrate this complexity. And if you're a company who wants to do this, and you're a CEO or the founder of a company who wants to do this, you need to support this person in the darkest hours, because there's going to be a lot of of difficulties, and there's going to be maybe moments when they will stumble on some difficult moments in the process when you will not agree with them, but you really need to support this person. Because as I was hinting initially, this person has a lot on the plate of the simple person. So this is the lead of the product team, to put it really clear, to make it really clear, right? So I was talking about the product team, the product people, how many things they have to do, and then this guy has to foresee that his team that his team does the best of their efforts. So, but besides that, he has to drive the strategy, that this person has to drive the strategy. And then the head of product needs to also influence people in the company and make them understand the importance of doing things in a different way, in a very collaborative way. Because so far we've known this very competitive way of doing things and of showing that you're the smartest person in the company. I would switch, flip the coin and say we really need to start working in a collaborative manner. So this person has to influence a lot of people to align and to join forces, to design and to create better products. And then this person really needs to create his team. And when I'm saying creating, is besides creating products, a person that is leading all the efforts in a company really needs to know how to create the best product. So they really need to understand people. They need to understand what people need, what people are best at, because you might have a team of very, and it's good that you aim to have a very different mix of people, because only from this mix of people, only from different type of product people, and I wouldn't say product people, but I would say people who design products, you will be able to create the best product. But because you have so many different people at the table, you really need to understand what they need in order to find their best role in your team and to put them to work, and who to combine who to build on top of each other's ideas. I would say only this small part here takes a lot of the leads product person, or this I would call this simple person, because it's very hard to understand people. Sometimes people don't understand themselves, but to be able to understand so many people, so many different people, who might not even be used to telling their boss what's their struggle. So you need to be able to go beneath the appearance of people to understand what are they struggling with, what's their motivation, what do they need, what they are missing. And yes, of course, this was the next thing, besides giving them the right hat and putting them in the right projects from which they can also learn. You need to empower them and to give them responsibility and autonomy, because things don't happen when you put people to do some things and then you do micromanagement, because that doesn't mean you trust them. And people need to know that they are being trusted, because only that's when they will be able to work at their best. And then, of course, the head of product, this simple person creating the strategy, creating this product team, also needs to be able to understand how you develop a product and what things, what functionalities, what experiences, what small parts of things, nuggets of experiences will make this product such as a successful product. So these are just some things. I'm not going into the actual development of the product, because it's also with the development team. And then this is another full talk of how you work with development teams, how you work with programmers, how you give this to how you give all the knowledge that you have and envisioned from to be the product to actually being developed by other teams, because you need to communicate on their language. You need to stay close to them. You need to also support them. But in order to support them, you need to understand these guys' frictions at all. And and it's another universe that you as a product lead and your team as product people need to understand in order to also join these efforts of development and be there throughout the entire process. And also after the product is launched, you have a lot of effort to put in. But again, summing it up, what do you need to make successful products? I already said the process, and it's different processes. For different projects, you might have different processes that have different tools, and it's really imperative that you know and that you have experimented with different kind of tools, different kind of processes, so that when you go into a context, you, after a short time, realize what's the tools and what's the process that are best fitted for this team, for these people, for this process, for this product. Because it's so many different things, and it's so many different users, and it's so many different people that work in a team, that maybe they will work better with other tools than other teams. So it's really, you really need to be, that's why I said orchestrate this, because it's like so many people with so many strings and so many different instruments that you need to be able to put in different rooms with different sets, with different tool sets. And you need people, the right people at the right time. And how you're going to do that? Well, again, you need to look and you need to understand context and a lot of other things. The right people. And I didn't want to go much into risks and into budget, because this is again a lot of things that will take a lot of this conversation. Right now, I will just focus on, you know, bringing the right people, because these people will also be able to take risks and will also fight for the budgets and get approval for the amount of money that they will need. Again, I want to sum up how you do this. Well, if you remember this, having different projects and different teams, and then product people, and you are basically the person who has to again orchestrate. And I like to say orchestrate, because it's a lot of effort into doing that, and it's having the big picture, and it involves a lot of things. And if you remember this slide that I just went in through, this is not simple at all. And of course, you already understood that this is not simple. But the point I want to make is that leading teams, product teams, is not for everyone. And of course, there's, you know, this desire of everyone going into products to become a manager and to be leading the efforts to create the products in a company. But this is not an easy thing to do. So I would encourage people to understand if they are able to do all this, and then to aim to lead teams. Because if you do this, and if you manage to get into the leading position, and you're not prepared for this, you will fail from up above, and you will fail. Of course, you will fail big time, and it's going to be a learning opportunity that I encourage you to have. But before doing this, it's good to have this assessment, whether you want to be a person who orchestrates, or you want to be a person that is there in the midst of doing things, in the midst of creating things. Because you really need to know how to create, but also you need to know a lot of other things, and to have all the energy and to have the context in your life that can maybe allow you to have all this complexity of what it means to lead a team, a product team. Because this is not something that starts when you see something, when you look at the world, and then you put all the effort in creating the product and in leading your team to create the product. This is not something that stops when you develop the product, and when the development team finishes and launches the product. This is something that is continuously, because the product cycle is continuously, until you no longer have the product, but then you might have another product. So these guys don't stop. That's what I want to say. They don't stop, and they have to build resilience. And resilience is something that I really heard often these days. It's really difficult to put it into words and to explain it. But because they have this relentlessness and this passion, it's a mix of things that makes them, be able to not stop. And sometimes it's good to also stop, but that's also part of the resilience. So because they are able to build teams that are there just because they know they are the right people at the right time. A good lead knows to make the people in their team know and feel that they are part of something, and that they are doing exactly what they want and that they like doing. And this is not something easy. This is very difficult because it comes to really seeing in people what maybe they are not able to see. You need to be a mentor, and you need to be someone that guides their career and that guides their learning path, so that they can, in the end, realize what you also saw in them. I won't stress much, but this is something that really needs some psychological skills that not a lot of people have. So don't aim to just be a manager and to be a lead. Aim to understand what you're good at. And why you need all this, why you need all the things that I mentioned so far, why you need to be able to create the teams like that, why you need the collaboration I mentioned so far, because probably this is what successful companies do, and what successful leaders did, and what successful innovators did. I like to give example the Henry Ford example. He didn't close himself in a room to invent his cars. He actually did a lot of iterations on the T model. I think it was the 7th or the 10th model. I don't remember very well. But he would work with people. He would close himself with different bunch of guys in a room, and then build small pieces and then put them together and see if they work. And only after that, after trying a lot of different things together with other people, they will come to a successful product that disrupted the ages. I'm not going to give another example that's from architecture, but I'm just going to tell you to Google Alejandro Aravena, a Chilean architect. He did some really innovative social houses together with the people who were supposed to live in those houses. Aravena, so Google this guy, because his process of designing something, which is, again, you would say that, yeah, that guy was an architect, he had to do that. But it's a mix of bringing at your table of designing the user. And you're going to see what he stumbled upon and read his story. If you happen to be the product person, my advice for you would be to do your job well. Of course, this is such, thank you, Miss Obvious, for pointing that out. But what I want to stress out with this is that you really need to find out what you're best at in order to do your job well. Don't just take on a job opportunity because it's the cool kid on the block or because it brings in money, because money won't fulfill your happiness. Oh, and of course it's a job. You don't want to be happy at your job, but maybe you do want. Maybe that's something you can aim at, to find that's something that you're best at and that you like doing, because that's where your satisfactions will come. But in order to do that, you will need to experiment. You will need to put yourself into different contexts, because you're not able to know if you're good at sewing if you're not trying, if you didn't ever sew, or maybe you don't know you like I don't know, pineapple ice cream if you're not eating a pineapple ice cream. So experiment as much as possible, and that's the inception of all the things. Put yourself in different contexts and different roles and different companies and different teams to be able to understand what you're best at. And do this well, because only when you do this well, things will start flowing. I really believe that money follows passion, and it's not the opposite. So when you do your job well, when you do what you like as a job, successful things will happen to you, and context will arise, and satisfaction will come, just because well, when you do something with passion and you like it, you will do it in the best way. And what I want to also say, and it's an advice that I like to give, is I see so many often people who wish that they had what other people have, and look at others. I encourage you to look at yourself instead of looking at others, because that's where insatisfaction comes. When you compare, of course, it's good, comparison is good, because that's where, you know, evolution comes. But that's where also, if you're not working with yourself and you're not looking at yourself, frustration might come. So find your thing, because from your thing, your job will be, you know, your job will appear, and then you will be lucky enough to do your job as you do something that you really like, and that won't tire you. That will give you energy to actually bring products to life, because you need a lot of energy. You need the highest energy to make products happen. Because as I said before, products happen in collaboration, and you need to be able to manage a lot of people and different backgrounds, different frustrations, different anxieties. People work with people, and if you're trying to launch a product, you will launch it for some other people. So maybe also try to bring in your clients at the table. And that's a really dear thing and philosophical thing, but I really believe that people work at their best when they have a purpose, where, you know, it's in our DNA to have a purpose and to leave some tracks in this world, in this life of ours. So we really need to have, we don't need to have, we need a purpose. So we need to find what's our purpose and what we are good at, and pursue that. So if you're a company, my advice would be to stop hiring employees for a role, rather bring in people for a mission. Because if you try to put a box into a square, a rounded square, the box might not fit. And it's a metaphor, but try to bring people in for what they are best at, and again, the right people for the right context at the right table, and give them a mission and support them, because that's when they will best perform, not when you will give them a role and evaluate them on, you know, the standard key KPIs, instead of looking at the person's needs and looking at maybe not KPIs, maybe. Of course, we care about KPIs and we care about metrics, but there are soft things that we should start looking at and start talking regularly, instead of, you know, the annual review. And finally, I would say these missions that you have, or at least that you bring in people for, change a lot. And they change naturally. If you don't see the change, you won't be able to change yourself. So companies also need to change. what I see often is companies ask their employees change instead of changing themselves. Employees will start moving more and more, faster and faster, because they will have, of course, you will say it's, well, during this crisis right now with the virus and everything, things changed quite a lot from what it used to be 3 months ago. But I would say that there will be a moment, and maybe it's going to be sooner than that, when, and even now we're talking about some changes that we don't know they're going to happen. So maybe it's time to look at how you as a company can change instead of forcing your employees to change. And that's what I had to do, to say. The closing, before just going into questions, I would stress again to find that thing that makes you tick at night, and don't fall for the ideas. Of course, it's naturally that you fall for something that came from you, but then be aware and be curious enough to listen to what others can bring at the table, because, well, this might make your idea grow, spring more, and have different variations, different colors, and, you know, be more vivid and more successful. This was my presentation. I'm curious if there are questions or curiosities that appeared while I was presenting everything that somehow I had in mind. And I still have a lot of things in my mind, but I'm also pausing to see if there are any questions.
Sure thing. So I want to start by saying thank you on behalf of the DevTalks team for being with us on the Women in Tech stage. And yeah, we sure thing have some questions. We got one from the beginning of the keynote. So I'm going to read it to you right now. As a product development team leader, how do you manage to disconnect in order to see the bigger picture? Because right now I feel like I'm bombarded with information, news, cat videos, and TikTok challenges. So yeah, how do you manage to disconnect and just say no more?
Well, what I did, because I like talking from my experience. It's been, especially during this lockdown time, it's been really, really intense and tiring, especially with the Zoom talks, with all the Zoom conversations, all the, you know, poor connection, people not being used to talk this way. So what worked for me was to really take time, not do anything, to not do anything. And I remember I would just go outside. Of course, you might not have a garden, you might not have been able to go outside, but if you do have this alternative of just staying, you might have kids, you might have family, you might have a context that I'm not familiar with because I'm not in your context, but try to find windows in which you simply stay, maybe in quietness, or do something that you like. Be it, you know, maybe you like to exercise, maybe you like to do yoga, maybe you like to maybe you just like to dance, or look at the blank screen, or look at, you know, some visualizers. But do that thing that makes your brain, even draw, dribble, do something that makes your brain just declutter. And then look at the world. I would, of course, right now it was difficult to look at the world, but I would just go on the streets, avoid people, but I would look at interactions. And during normal circumstances, before the crisis, I try to go out in other contexts, alone, at the flea market, on the streets, in different pubs, in different gatherings, to see, and in different, if you're in technology, try to go at something that is do some sports, go outside your bubble. And
so basically go in the other direction than your actual field and try to expand that way.
but the question was also how you disconnect, and my response to that was simply stay. Don't do anything. And it's, of course, we hear a lot about meditation, mindfulness.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know how to meditate or know how to be mindful, but even running, if you run, you simply disconnect, and that helps you a lot. Maybe you're not able to run, but even drawing, doing something repetitive might make your brain declutter. And I encourage you to take initially, before forming in a habit, you need to do this intentionally. So put in your agenda some windows of disconnecting, doing whatever makes you disconnect.
And maybe just put the phone down during those periods.
I have to say that during this time, I wasn't able to look at new movies. I wasn't able to look at Netflix. When I needed to watch a movie, I would watch a movie that I liked and that I previously saw, because I didn't have the bandwidth, the mental capacity. I was too stressed and to be able to look at something new and to grasp and to pay attention to that. I was just too tired. So that was my way of disconnecting.
Yeah. So we got another question. You've said in order to create and develop products, you can bring people in from other companies. Is there something that I should be worried about whilst bringing other people in?
Well, of course.
Maybe,
yeah. I get that often because, I got that really often also when I was at Electronic Arts, when we needed to test, the company didn't want to test because, hey, we're showing parts of, what we designed, the game. We don't want that seen by other competitors. And again,
so it is a legit worry.
Yeah, it's competition is what made us and makes us do different things, but I think there's a lot of room and there's a lot of different minds at different teams that can make different things differently. And of course I said the truism right now, but I really believe that, first of all, of course, when you bring other companies at your table, of course you need to take precautionary measures, so NPA, stuff like that. But besides the formalities, I would encourage you to don't, stress too much that someone else will take your idea and make it happen, because an idea is something, but up to the moment when you make that idea happen, you develop it, and how you develop it, there's so many variations and there's so many ways that the conversation you want to have at, I don't know, an ideation, let's say, session where you bring other companies or people from other companies at the table, that's the moment when you come up with ideas, and ideas that come from combining ideas and from other people. But that's the moment when you come up with ideas. The experience of how you will make that idea happen, and all the variations, and maybe the technology that you might have and other competitor might not have, that's another conversation, and that's a whole big universe that should stop make you feel worried that someone will take your idea, because you want someone to take your idea and go out there to make it differently, because you will learn from what they do and how they fail, so that you can integrate that in your idea and make it better. So I don't encourage people to be too stressed about that.
All right, so take precautions, but don't stress it out. It's basically kind of the gist of it, right?
Trust that you will do it differently. But this comes openness, not from stress. Stress is not good.
All right, and one final question. Product people, you've mentioned that product people should be jack of all trades, but should they be jack of all trades as a unit or as individuals? As often, we call individuals that are jack of all trades masters of none. Ooh, this is a big one.
And it's good that they are not masters of none, that they are masters, that they don't master everything, because if you remember what I said, they know what they need, and they bring people at the table that best know that. So it's good that they are jack of all trades, but they are masters of none, because they don't need to be masters of everything.
They just need to complement each other, right?
Yes. And that was the open part, because I said they need to be open, and you need to be open to be open and honest with yourself, that you cannot be this master of everything. That you know your role is to know a lot of things and bring those guys that can complement you and can best make this product happen. So it's the best question that I could end with. It's good that the product people are jack of all trades and master of none.
Cool. So again, thank you. This is the final question. I'm pretty sure questions will start up popping out throughout the day, and we're gonna compose those and send them to you. Maybe you get the chance to answer all of them. But then again, thank you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me here, and sorry for talking so fast. I will wait for the questions, and I really hope. I mean, I want to reply to all of those, because I really think there's a lot of things happening, and there's good that conversation happens.
Thank you. Thank you, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a great day too. Bye.
Bye.